Along with having a sexual orientation, most people have another orientation that they may not be oriented with. This is their romantic orientation. So what is a romantic orientation? Well, it's the same as a sexual orientation, with the simple exception that it's based on the gender or sex that one is romantically attracted to, as opposed to the gender or sex that one is sexually attracted to. For every sexual orientation that exists, a corresponding romantic orientation also exists. Similar to how a heterosexual person may be attracted to someone of the opposite sex or gender, and may want to further a sexual relationship with them, a heteroromantic person may be attracted romantically to someone of the opposite sex or gender, and may want to further a romantic relationship with them. In general, most people's romantic and sexual orientations are in alignment, so it's rare that romantic orientations are ever mentioned, with the exception of asexuals. So what are these romantic orientations? Well, 3 of these romantic orientations should sound familiar, because they correspond to commonly known sexual orientations. A heteroromantic is someone who is romantically attracted to the opposite sex or gender. A homoromantic is someone who is romantically attracted to the same sex or gender. A biromantic is generally someone who is attracted to both the male and female sexes or genders, but they also can be attracted to any 2 sexes or genders. Lesser known romantic orientations also exist. These include panromantics, those who are romantically attracted to people regardless of their biological sex or gender, and aromantics, those who experience no romantic attraction whatsoever. For those who don't fit the gender binary of male and female, other romantic orientations also exist. These include androromantic, those who are romantically attracted to males, gynoromantic, those who are romantically attracted to females, and polyromantic, those who are romantically attracted to more than one sex or gender, though not all sexes or genders. These orientations don't specify whether one is attracted to the same or opposite sex or gender, because these orientations accommodate those who don't fit the gender and sex binaries. In addition to romantic orientations, other useful terms exist to describe the quality or degree of romantic attraction. These terms form the gray area of romantic attraction, which is known as gray romanticism. Considered as being in between those who are aromantic and those who are fully romantic, gray romantics may experience romantic attraction too infrequently to identify with romantic society. Those who fall under the gray romantic area can include demiromantics, those who do not experience romantic attraction to someone until they have established a close emotional bond with them, and lithromantics, those who do experience romantic attraction but don't want their feelings to be reciprocated, or don't want to enter into a romantic relationship with other people. In some cases, one's romantic orientation and sexual orientation are not in alignment. This means that the gender or sex they are sexually attracted to is not the same as the gender or sex they are romantically attracted to. This type of combination is fairly evident in the case of romantic asexuals, because while they may not experience sexual attraction to anyone, they still do experience romantic attraction to others. Of course, this still occurs to those who aren't strictly asexual. Gray asexuals and demisexuals, as well as those who are not on the asexual spectrum, can be romantically attracted to those that they aren't sexually attracted to, and they can be sexually attracted to those that they aren't romantically attracted to. For example, someone who is heterosexual and experiences sexual attraction to the opposite sex or gender can be aromantic. Sometimes, there can even be an overlap between the 2 orientations. For example, a pansexual can be androromantic, a demisexual who only experiences sexual attraction to males can be biromantic, and a heterosexual can be panromantic. As evidenced by lithromantics, romantic attraction is not the same as romantic desire. Just as there are those who can desire to have a sexual relationship despite not experiencing sexual attraction, there are also those who can desire to have a romantic relationship despite not experiencing romantic attraction. The opposite is also true. There are those who do experience romantic attraction, but have no desire to be in a romantic relationship. Because the reasons for entering into a romantic relationship differ depending on the individual, and because romantic attraction does not have to be a qualification for a romantic relationship, such situations are possible. Okay, so what does this all mean? Should people in society change to start saying, for example, I'm a heteroromantic heterosexual who desires to be in a heterosexual relationship? Or, I'm a homoromantic homosexual who desires to be in a homosexual relationship every single time the question of orientations comes up? Well, no. Romantic orientations aren't inherently essential to bring up when discussing sexual orientations, and it usually isn't a necessity for those whose sexual and romantic orientations are in alignment. However, they are still useful and important identifications for asexuals and for those whose romantic and sexual orientations do not match. In a society that often equates romantic love with sex, and vice versa, it can be extremely confusing and alienating for those whose romantic and sexual orientations do not align. Someone who is homosexual and heteromantic, or asexual and biromantic, may go years or even decades wondering why their romantic and sexual relationships never seem to work in a way that society says they should work. Simply knowing that romantic attraction is separate from sexual attraction allows those whose romantic and sexual orientations aren't in sync to know that there is nothing wrong with the way that they are. In addition, understanding romantic attractions and orientations can better aid us in deciding what type of relationships we want to form, whether or not romantic or sexual relationships are the types of relationships we want to form. Desire for romantic and/or sexual relationships is not always dependent upon the presence of romantic or sexual feelings, nor do the presence of sexual or romantic feelings indicate that one actually wants a sexual or romantic relationship for themselves. Being acquainted with and understanding these feelings and attractions that we have can allow us to communicate them and our desires so that we can have the type of relationships we truly want, as opposed to the type of relationships we think we want. In this episode, we discussed that all people, including those who aren't on the asexual spectrum, have a romantic orientation, how there are many types of romantic orientations, how there are also different degrees of romantic attraction, giving us the gray area, how romantic and sexual orientations are not always in alignment, how romantic attractions do not determine whether or not someone wants to be in a romantic relationship, and that romantic orientations are important. As always, feel free to leave any questions you have about asexuality in the comments below, and our team will do our best to answer each question individually. We will be continuing to post weekly videos on asexuality, so make sure to check back here often, or subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified of new postings. Thanks for watching, and as always, everything's A-OK.